The morning sun rose over New Haven, but Ambassador Thexval couldn't feel its warmth. He stood at the window of the medical center, watching as another transport ship carried away the bodies of his people. The beautiful colony world that had once been home to millions of Calarians was becoming a graveyard. Behind him, Dr. Veltar shook his head sadly. The infection rate has jumped to 87% overnight. Our best medical equipment can't even slow it down anymore. Thexval closed his eyes. The plague had appeared 3 weeks ago without warning. It started in the farming districts, spreading from settlement to settlement like wildfire. The Calarians had always prided themselves on their medical technology. Other species came from across the galaxy to study in their hospitals. But this disease laughed at their advanced treatments. What about the children's ward? Thexval asked quietly. We lost 12 more last night, Dr. Veltar replied. The youngest was only 4 years old. The ambassador's hands clenched into fists. These weren't just numbers on a report. These were his friends, his neighbors, his family. His own daughter was in quarantine, fighting for her life. Walking to his desk, Thexval activated the long-range communication array. The device hummed to life, its blue glow filling the room. This was their last hope. Attention all civilizations, he began, his voice carrying across the stars. This is Ambassador Thexval of the Calarian Republic. Our colony world of New Haven is facing complete extinction from an unknown disease. We are requesting immediate medical assistance from any species capable of providing aid. He attached all their medical data to the message. Every scan, every test result, every failed treatment. Maybe someone, somewhere, would know what to do. The response came quickly from the Altarian Medical Guild. Their message was brief and crushing. Pathogen unknown. No treatment available. Recommend evacuation of surviving population. Next came the Centauri Health Collective. Our prayers are with your people. Unfortunately, our medical database contains no matching pathogens. We cannot provide assistance. One by one, the galaxy's greatest medical minds examined their data and came to the same conclusion. The plague was a mystery. There was no cure. The Calarians were doomed. Thexval slumped in his chair as the final rejection arrived from the Rigelian Medical Academy. 43 civilizations had reviewed their case. 43 had declared it hopeless. Meanwhile, on a distant world called Earth, Dr. Beth Rodriguez was working late in her laboratory. The Terran Medical Research Station was quiet at this hour. Most of her colleagues had gone home to their families, but Beth preferred the silence of the night shift. It helped her think. The communication alert chimed softly. Beth glanced at the incoming message, expecting another routine research update. Instead, she found herself reading a desperate plea for help from a dying world. The medical data made her frown. She pulled up the pathogen's molecular structure on her holographic display, rotating it slowly as she studied its details. Something about it seemed familiar. Computer, run a comparison analysis with Earth's historical disease database, she commanded. The artificial intelligence began processing the request. Within minutes, dozens of matches appeared on her screen. Beth's eyes widened as she recognized the patterns. This wasn't some mysterious alien plague. This was basically a supercharged version of diseases that had once terrorized Earth. She saw elements of tuberculosis in its respiratory attack patterns. The way it spread reminded her of the Spanish flu pandemic. Its resistance to treatment was similar to antibiotic-resistant bacteria that human doctors had been fighting for decades. My God, she whispered. We know how to fight this. Beth's hands moved quickly across her keyboard, pulling up treatment protocols that human medicine had developed over centuries of fighting similar diseases. Aggressive antibiotic therapy. Targeted immune system boosters. Surgical interventions when necessary. Treatments that other species might consider too harsh or dangerous. She reached for her communication device, her heart racing with excitement and hope. For the first time in weeks, someone might actually be able to help those dying people. "Get me Admiral Jack Stevens at Fleet Command," she told her assistant. "Tell him it's urgent. We have people to save." As the connection went through, Beth looked back at the desperate message from New Haven. Soon, very soon, the Calarians would learn that when humans promise to help, they don't do anything halfway. Admiral Jack Stevens sat in his command chair, staring at the holographic display that Dr. Beth Rodriguez had transmitted from her research station. The rotating image of the alien pathogen looked innocent enough, but he knew it was killing millions of people on a distant world. "Run that comparison again, Doctor," Stevens said, leaning forward. His weathered hands gripped the armrests of his chair as the display shifted to show Earth's historical diseases alongside the alien plague. "Look at these attack patterns," Beth explained, pointing to different sections of the molecular structure. "See how it targets the lungs first, then spreads to other organs. That's exactly what tuberculosis did to our ancestors. And this spreading mechanism here. It's almost identical to how the 1918 flu pandemic jumped between people." Stevens had been in the military for 30 years. He'd seen humanity fight wars against alien invaders, space pirates, and natural disasters. But he'd never seen anything quite like this. The disease was like a greatest hits collection of Earth's deadliest plagues, all rolled into one superweapon. "You're sure we can treat this?" he asked. "Admiral, my grandfather survived tuberculosis back when it was still killing millions on Earth. My great-grandmother lived through 3 different flu pandemics. Humans have been fighting diseases like this for thousands of years. We know what works." Beth pulled up another display showing treatment protocols. Aggressive antibiotic combinations, immune system boosters, controlled fever therapy. The kind of treatments that other species think are too dangerous or too harsh. But that's because they've never had to survive on a death world like Earth. Stevens nodded slowly. He'd heard the stories from the old-timers. Before humanity reached the stars, Earth had been a nightmare world of plagues, natural disasters, and hostile environments. Every generation had to fight just to survive. That struggle had made humans tough in ways that other species couldn't understand. "How long do these people have?" he asked. "Based on the infection rates in their latest transmission, maybe 2 weeks before complete population collapse," Beth replied. "Admiral, we need to move fast." Stevens stood up, his decision made. He activated the fleet-wide communication system, his voice echoing through every ship in the 3rd Colonial Fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Stevens. We have a code-red humanitarian crisis on the Calarian world of New Haven. Prepare for immediate deployment. Full fleet mobilization." His communications officer looked confused. "Sir, should I contact Medical Command about sending a hospital ship?" "Negative. We're taking everyone." "Everyone, sir. The entire 3rd Fleet. Every ship, every crew member, every piece of equipment we have. When humans respond to a crisis, we don't do it halfway." Within hours, the fleet was preparing to depart. 37 ships powered up their engines, from massive dreadnoughts to fast attack cruisers to the giant hospital ship Mercy. Supply vessels loaded medical equipment that had been designed to work in Earth's harsh environment. Marines checked their equipment, ready to secure landing zones on an unknown world. The response from Galactic Command came quickly. Admiral Crecton of the Alterian Defense Force appeared on Stevens' viewscreen, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. "Admiral Stevens, our sensors show your entire battle fleet preparing to depart. Surely this is excessive for a simple medical mission." Stevens smiled. "Admiral, there's nothing simple about saving lives. When someone asks for our help, they get everything we have. But why send warships to fight a disease? Because, Admiral, humans learned long ago that you can't heal people if you can't protect them. We don't send doctors into danger zones without proper backup. That's not how we operate." The alien admiral's expression grew more confused. "Your species continues to puzzle us. No other civilization would deploy their entire military for a medical emergency. Maybe that's why other civilizations failed to help these people, Stevens replied. Admiral, with respect, when you've lived on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that survival requires everything you've got. Every resource, every person, every ship. We don't hold anything back when lives are on the line. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading toward the dying world of New Haven, Stevens looked out at the stars. Other species might think humans were crazy for sending a battle fleet on a medical mission. But that was fine with him. Let them think whatever they wanted. Soon, they'd understand exactly what it meant when humans promised to help. The space around New Haven had been empty and quiet for weeks. Ambassador Thexval stood at the observation deck of the orbital medical station, watching ships carry away the dead. The silence of space felt like a tomb for his dying world. Then everything changed. The first ship appeared in a flash of blue light as it dropped out of hyperspace. Then another. And another. Thexval's eyes widened as he watched vessel after vessel materialize in the darkness. Not small medical transports or research ships. These were warships. Massive, intimidating, bristling with weapons and armor. "Sir, we're reading 37 ships," his communications officer reported, his voice shaking. "Dreadnoughts, battle cruisers, carriers, and what looks like a mobile hospital." Thexval stared in disbelief. The human fleet spread out in perfect formation, surrounding his world like a protective shield. Each ship was larger than anything the Calarians had ever built. They looked like they'd been designed to fight wars, not heal the sick. The communication system crackled to life. "New Haven Orbital Station, this is Admiral Jack Stevens of the Terran 3rd Colonial Fleet. We received your distress call. We're here to help." Thexval scrambled to respond. "Admiral Stevens, we asked for medical assistance. Are you here to invade our world?" A deep laugh came through the speakers. "Son, if we wanted to invade, you'd already be conquered. We're here because your people are dying and we know how to save them. But why bring warships? We're no threat to anyone." "That's exactly why we brought them," Stevens replied calmly. "When humans send doctors into danger, we make sure they're protected. Always." Through the massive viewports, Thexval watched as the largest ship moved closer to the planet. It was enormous, painted white with red crosses marking it as a medical vessel. But even the hospital ship looked like it could defend itself in a fight. "That's the Hope," Stevens explained. "Finest medical facility in human space. Dr. Amy Foster and her team are already preparing to come down to your world. They've dealt with diseases like this before." Dropships began launching from the human vessels. Not sleek, elegant transports like other species used, but bulky, heavily armored craft that looked like they could survive anything. Each one carried medical supplies, equipment, and personnel. "Admiral, I don't understand," Thexval said. "No other species responded to our call with military vessels. Why do humans bring weapons to a medical emergency?" Stevens' voice grew serious. "Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. We've been fighting diseases and disasters on our homeworld for thousands of years. We learned early that you can't save lives if you can't protect the people trying to do the saving." The first human dropships touched down near the main hospital complex. Thexval watched through the security cameras as the craft opened up. Human soldiers emerged first, establishing a perimeter with weapons ready. Only then did the medical personnel come out, carrying equipment and supplies. "Colonel Pat Williams and his Marines will secure the area," Stevens continued. "Dr. Foster and her team will start treating your people. And if anything tries to interfere with that mission, well, that's what the other 36 ships are for." On his tactical display, Thexval could see other galactic powers watching the human response with confusion. The Altarian Medical Guild had sent a single observer ship, staying far away from the planet. The Centauri Collective was monitoring from a safe distance. Everyone seemed baffled by the human approach. "Admiral, surely this is excessive," came a transmission from the Alterian observer. "Medical missions don't require battle fleets." "Maybe that's why you folks failed to help these people," Stevens replied bluntly. "You were too worried about efficiency to actually solve the problem." More dropships landed across the planet's surface. Each landing zone was quickly secured by human soldiers, then converted into medical stations. The efficiency was incredible. Within hours, the humans had established treatment centers in every major population area. Dr. Foster's voice came over the communications system. "Admiral, we've got our first patient stabilized. The treatments are working exactly as Dr. Rodriguez predicted. We can save these people." Thex Val felt tears streaming down his face. For weeks, he'd watched his people die while the galaxy's greatest medical minds declared the situation hopeless. Now, humans had arrived with a simple message: "We're here to help," backed up by the firepower to make sure nothing could stop them. "Admiral Stevens," Thex Val said quietly, "why? Why risk so much for people you've never met?" The answer came without hesitation. "Because that's what humans do, Ambassador. When someone needs help, we don't just send what we think is enough. We send everything we have." Dr. Amy Foster rolled up her sleeves as she entered the main treatment center on New Haven. The Calarian medical staff watched nervously as she examined their equipment with obvious disappointment. "This won't work," she announced, pointing to their delicate medical scanners. "Too gentle. We need something with more power." Dr. Veltar, the head Calarian physician, looked confused. "But our equipment is the most advanced in the galaxy. It causes no discomfort to patients." "That's the problem," Amy replied, unpacking her own medical kit. "Sometimes you need to cause a little discomfort to save a life. Your people are dying because you're being too nice to this disease." She pulled out what looked like a medieval torture device to the Calarian doctors. It was actually a human medical drill, designed to work in the harsh conditions of space colonies and mining operations. "We're going to start with controlled fever therapy," Amy explained as her team wheeled in their equipment. "We'll raise the patient's body temperature to levels that will kill the pathogen but won't kill the patient." The Calarian doctor stepped back in horror. "That's barbaric. The fever could cause permanent damage." "And death will cause permanent damage too," Amy shot back. "Look, your people have been trying gentle treatments for weeks. How's that working out for you?" She gestured to the ward full of dying patients. "On Earth, we've been fighting diseases like this for thousands of years. We learned that sometimes you have to hurt the disease more than it's hurting the patient." The first patient was a young Calarian mother who had been unconscious for 3 days. Amy's team attached monitoring devices and began the fever induction process. The woman's temperature rose steadily as the Calarian doctors watched in fascination and terror. "Her vital signs are becoming unstable," Dr. Veltar warned. "That's normal," Amy replied calmly, checking her readings. "The pathogen can't survive at these temperatures. We're cooking it out of her system." Within 2 hours, something incredible happened. The woman's eyes fluttered open. She looked around weakly, but she was alive and aware for the first time in days. "Impossible," whispered one of the Calarian doctors. "Not impossible," Amy said with a grin. "Just human medicine. We learned to fight dirty because our planet taught us to fight dirty." Across the treatment center, other human medical teams were employing equally aggressive tactics. Dr. Tony Chen was performing surgery with tools that looked more like construction equipment than medical instruments. Sergeant Lisa Park was administering antibiotic injections that would have killed most other species. "You have to understand," Amy explained to the amazed Calarian staff, "Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Diseases, natural disasters, predators, radiation storms. We survived by learning to hit back harder than anything that tried to hurt us." The results were undeniable. Patients who had been dying were now sitting up and talking. Children who hadn't eaten in days were asking for food. The human treatments were working when nothing else had. But back on the flagship, Dr. Beth Rodriguez was making a disturbing discovery in her mobile laboratory. She'd been analyzing samples of the pathogen, trying to understand how it worked. What she found made her blood run cold. "Admiral Stevens," she called over the secure communication channel. "You need to see this immediately." Stevens appeared on her screen, his face serious. "What is it, Doctor?" "This plague isn't natural, sir. I've found artificial molecular markers embedded in the pathogen's DNA. Someone engineered this disease." The Admiral's expression grew dark. "Any idea who?" "Based on the genetic signatures, it matches known Vorthan bioweapon designs." "Sir, this was an attack. They used a plague to weaken the Calarians before invasion." Stevens was quiet for a moment, processing the information. "How long before the Vorthan fleet arrives?" Beth checked her analysis reports. "Based on the timing of the plague outbreak and typical Vorthan military doctrine, I'd estimate 48 hours. Maybe less." The Admiral smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Well, Doctor, looks like we arrived just in time for the real fight." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Stevens. Red alert. We have incoming hostiles." The Calarians weren't just hit by a plague. They were hit by a bioweapon. The people who did this are coming to finish the job. Throughout the human fleet, battle stations sounded. Weapon systems powered up. Marines checked their equipment. The medical mission was about to become something much more serious. "Sir," came a voice from the bridge, "should we evacuate the medical teams?" Stevens shook his head. "Negative. Dr. Foster and her people stay on the planet. They have work to finish. Our job is to make sure nobody stops them from doing it." The Vorthan war fleet emerged from hyperspace like hungry predators. Admiral Croth had planned this attack for months. First, release the bioweapon to weaken the Calarians. Then, arrive with overwhelming force to claim their rich agricultural world. It was a simple, brutal plan that had worked on dozens of worlds before. But something was wrong. "Admiral, we're detecting multiple contacts in orbit around the planet," his sensor officer reported nervously. Croth looked at the tactical display and frowned. Instead of finding a defenseless, plague-ravaged world, he was staring at 37 warships arranged in perfect battle formation. The ships were unfamiliar, but they were clearly military vessels. Big ones. "Who are they?" Croth demanded. "Unknown configuration, sir. The ships appear to be human." Croth laughed. He'd heard of humans before. The new species from the outer rim that everyone called Deathworlders. They were supposed to be tough, but they were also supposed to be primitive. What were they doing here? The communication system crackled to life. "Vorthan vessels, this is Admiral Jack Stevens of the Terran Third Fleet. You are ordered to withdraw immediately from Calarian space. The people of New Haven are under human protection." Croth activated his own communications with amusement. "Humans. What are you doing here, Deathworlders? This is Vorthan territory now." "No, it isn't," Stevens replied calmly. "These people asked for our help. We're giving it to them." "Help?" Croth chuckled. "Look around you, human. We have over 100 ships. You have 37. Even Deathworlders can count, I assume." There was a pause before Stevens responded. When he did, his voice was cold as space itself. "Admiral Croth, let me explain something about humans. We don't measure strength by how many ships we have. We measure it by how determined we are to protect the people we've sworn to help." Croth checked his tactical display again. The human ships were moving into an attack formation, but they were still heavily outnumbered. "You're outnumbered 3-1, Deathworlder. Surrender now and we might let your medical ships leave." "Medical ships?" Stevens sounded genuinely amused. "Admiral, there are no medical ships in my fleet. Every one of these vessels is a warship. Built to fight in the radiation storms around Earth's sun. Designed to survive in the most dangerous corner of the galaxy." For the first time, Croth felt a flicker of uncertainty. He'd assumed the humans had brought a few escorts for their hospital ships. But if every vessel was a combat ship? "Last warning, Admiral," Stevens continued. "Withdraw your forces or we will remove them." Crotha's pride made the decision for him. "All ships, attack formation. Let's show these Deathworlders how real warriors fight." The space around New Haven exploded into violence. The first exchange told the whole story. Vorthan plasma bolts, designed to overwhelm conventional shields, struck the human vessels and simply disappeared. The human ships absorbed the energy like it was nothing. Their shields, built to deflect solar radiation and cosmic storms, laughed at conventional weapons. Then the humans fired back. The difference was shocking. Human weapons, designed to punch through the hull of ships built to survive in Earth's hostile space environment, tore through Vorthan armor like it was made of paper. Railguns fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Energy weapons focused power levels that would have fried conventional targeting systems. Within minutes, a dozen Vorthan ships were drifting wreckage. "Impossible!" Croth screamed at his tactical officer. "How are they doing this?" "Sir, their weapons are operating at power levels we didn't think were possible. Their shields are absorbing energy that should have destroyed them." Down on New Haven's surface, Ambassador Thexval watched the battle through the orbital monitoring station. Human dropships continued landing even as the space battle raged above. Dr. Amy Foster and her teams kept treating patients as if nothing was happening. "Shouldn't we take cover?" Thexval asked Colonel Pat Williams. The human Marine commander shrugged. "Admiral Stevens said he'd handle it. I trust him." In space, the battle was turning into a rout. The Vorthan ships that survived the first exchange were trying to retreat, but the human vessels were faster. Ships designed to navigate Earth's debris-filled solar system moved through space with deadly precision. Admiral Croth watched his fleet dissolve around him. Half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were fleeing in terror. The humans had turned his overwhelming numerical advantage into a meaningless statistic. "All remaining ships, retreat," he ordered. "Full speed." As the surviving Vorthan vessels limped away, Admiral Stevens opened a communication channel to the planet's surface. "Admiral, it's over," came Dr. Foster's voice. "The last patients have been declared healthy. The plague is beaten." Ambassador Thexval took over the communication. "Admiral Stevens, I don't understand. Why did you bring your entire fleet? Why risk so much for people you'd never met?" Stevens' voice was warm now, the coldness of battle replaced by something gentler. "Ambassador, let me tell you about humans. When someone asks us for help, we don't send the minimum we think might work. We send everything we have. Every ship, every doctor, every Marine. But we only asked for medical aid. And you got it. Along with everything else we thought you might need. That's the human way, Ambassador. We don't do anything halfway." Across the galaxy, other species monitored the communication channels with growing amazement. The humans hadn't just provided medical aid. They'd eliminated the source of the problem entirely. Their definition of helping included making sure the people they helped stayed safe. As the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind a healthy world and a grateful population, the galaxy began to understand something important. The Deathworlders from Earth weren't just tough survivors. They were the most dedicated protectors anyone had ever seen. When humans promised to help, they meant it completely.